Welcome back into Eye on Agriculture. I'm Britton Rucker. A lot has happened in 2025, shaping the world of agricultural law and taxation. And we're taking a look back at some of the most important developments from 2025. We're joined now with Roger McOwen, Professor of Agricultural Law and Taxation at Washburn University, to walk us through some of these. As always, Roger, pleasure talking with you today.
Well, thanks for having me, Britton. Always good to be with you.
Now, to kick us off, when you look back at 2025, why was it such a big year for ag law and taxes?
Oh my, it was just never stopped day after day, from trade issues to commodity title, one big beautiful bill, all types of water issues. We got a new WOTUS rule. We had all types of legal issues in the courts with respect to antitrust issues, just on and on and on it went. We could throw labeling in on that too, plus all the other tax issues that were major throughout the year. It was just an incredibly fast-paced year on lots of ag, legal, and tax topics.
And kind of even hard to keep track of in your head. If a farmer only remembers one or two of these legal challenges from last year and changes from last year, what should be at the top of their list?
Well, I think probably most farmers are going to have at the top of their list the tax changes in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And coming into the year, a lot of farmers were concerned what was going to happen to the federal estate tax exemption. Was it going to collapse back down, maybe get cut in half? If so, that's going to create major estate planning issues for many farmers. And of course, we got a permanency of the higher exemption rates pegged at 15 million and then set pegged for inflation after 2026. So that was a relief. And then the reinstatement of bonus depreciation at 100%, ramp up in expense method depreciation. So in your capital asset purchases, that's a big deal for farmers and ranchers. So there was a lot of concern about those things coming into the year, and that was fortunately came out pretty good for farmers in 2025.
Now, Roger, there's been a lot of talk about pesticide lawsuits. What's changed in 2025 that's really caught your attention?
Well, just a number of lawsuits across the country. Of course, this is the Roundup litigation, Britain. That's what we're talking about. And out west, we've got now multi-district litigation that has moved up into the state of Washington, where they're pulling a whole bunch of cases together out of California and off the West Coast. And then we saw huge jury verdicts coming out of Missouri and Pennsylvania back against Bayer and Monsanto. And we've also got a split amongst the circuit courts of appeal. And right as we ended 2025, the Solicitor General for the U.S. asked the U.S. Supreme Court to clear up the distinction between the Third Circuit and the Ninth Circuit on the impact of state labeling laws and whether those conflict with the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act. So this issue is going to continue on into 2026 if the U.S. Supreme Court takes that case.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to follow for sure on that end. Now, carbon capture and pore space has been a pretty hot topic. Now, what does the North Dakota court decision mean for landowners here in the Plains?
Yeah, you're right. There was a North Dakota local trial court decision. And normally when I kind of look back at a previous year and figure out what the top developments were nationwide, I never get down to the local level, but I did in this one. And I think this is a big deal. It's on its way to the North Dakota Supreme Court right now. And we've got a number of states, North Dakota being one, that has what's known as an amalgamation law. And it says that if you're a landowner and you're in the route of a pipeline, for example, or something an energy company needs access to your property for, and so they want to buy an easement from you or get rights on your property, and you say no, well, in North Dakota, if 60% of the landowners in that line say yes, then the other 40% were automatically bound. And there are other states that have laws like that. Well, the trial court judge in North Dakota ruled for the objecting landowners and said that's a taking of their private property. That requires just compensation. That's a big deal because there are, like I said, other states that have rules that are like that. So I think that judge is probably correct, and the North Dakota Supreme Court will uphold that, and then that has implications for legislatures in other states.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to keep in mind if it hits close to home on your end, if you're ever in that situation. Now, Roger, you also wrote about residual soil fertility deductions. That's a mouthful to begin with. Can you just explain that in simple terms and why more producers are paying more attention to it?
Yeah, this is the wild, wild west of tax because there are no rules on this. There's not a statute. There's just a theory and something said by the IRS in 1991, and they haven't said anything since then. And what this is, Britain, is when I buy a farm or when somebody dies and they leave the farm to me, can I get a deduction for the nutrients that are in the soil that might be above some baseline level of nutrients? That's what this is. It's called excess or residual fertilizer supply. I've actually seen a return where the individual, the taxpayer, claimed a $40 million deduction on allocation to residual fertilizer supply. IRS let it go, and IRS has not overturned any of the audits I'm familiar with. I'm familiar with 15 of them, right about 15 of them, with that highest number being 40 million. So what they do is they hire an agronomist to come out, do a soil report, take soil samplings, maybe grid sampling, and they'll tell you what all the nutrients are in the soil. And if you're above a baseline, they'll allocate a value to that, and you set it up and you write it off basically over 3 to 5, maybe 7 years. But that deduction has proven that, we're talking NP and K, and that can be, I've seen it get to 40 to 50% of the per acre value of the land. So you get up in the Northwest Iowa, that's $20,000 an acre. If they might be allocating $10,000 an acre to residual fertilizer supply and taking a deduction for it. So that's what this is all about, and it really is all over the board right now. Wild, wild west.
And that's a very interesting conversation because that's an incentive to really take care and maybe put some imports into your soil as well.
Yeah, well, the market tells us that well-fertilized soil sells for more on a per acre basis than soil that doesn't have those nutrients in it. So there is value in it. The trick is, how do we value it, and what is the deduction? And that's where we're kind of fumbling around with this right now. We just don't know.
Now, a lot of producers are thinking about the product of USA beef labeling. That was a top thing about ag developments of 2025. They finally got tightened up. Why does this matter to cattle producers and consumers?
Well, there's a lawsuit that was filed in South Dakota by cattle producers, and they survived a motion to dismiss by the major packers. And that case is going to be decided probably by this year in 2026 by the 8th Circuit. And then on the heels of that, you had multiple state attorney generals that agreed with the cattlemen in South Dakota and said, yeah, the USDA rule is wrong. And then USDA actually, we got legislation in place, regulation in place that says starting January 1 of 2026, then the rule changes. But what this is, Britain, is for years, the meat packers have been able to use what's deemed to be a loophole in the regulations that says if it's got the USDA label on it, a lot of consumers would think when they go to the grocery store that means it's been born, bred, processed all in the United States. And no, all that means is the last step in the process occurred in the United States, and they can get that USDA label on it, although that might be imported beef. Need not be labeled as such. So that's going to be an issue in 2026. That's a big one. It's more of a consumer transparency issue. That's what I would call it.
Now, Roger, this is all over my social media, and we've heard a lot about it this year and years past. The right to repair and antitrust issues. How is the legal system starting to push back against consolidation in ag?
Well, on several fronts. Right to repair is one of those. And of course, that's a big issue for farmers. The estimates are that farmers have lost about $3 billion in the form of extra repair costs of having to go back to a dealer rather than having the ability to repair machinery and equipment on their farm themselves. And there's litigation coming out of Illinois against John Deere. That's going to continue in 2026. Some states, such as Colorado, have right to repair legislation. And we also we have a piece of legislation that was introduced in the Congress in late 2025 that would give farmers the right to repair their machinery. So that's one aspect of antitrust. I would throw that in the category of antitrust. We've also seen it with settlements concerning JBS, Purdue Farms on the poultry side, JBS on the meatpacking side. We saw major settlements on price fixing and wage fixing, tournament style buying, the turn system in poultry. So we've seen that those cases, there's some of that litigation is going to continue in 2026. So we've kind of seen it across the board in agriculture in 2025, and a concerted effort now, it looks like, by USDA to really look at competitive issues in various sectors of agriculture going forward.
Yeah, a lot of producers are just saying, I just want to fix my stuff, maybe save myself
Right.
$1 or so, right?
Yeah.
Well, Roger, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
everyone stick around. We'll be right back.